Hi and welcome to week 2 in Counting the Omer and day 8. We are now moving from the Sephirot Chesed into the diamond of Gevurah. And this whole week we will stay in this Sephirot. When God shines its light or pouring its river of love into our vessels, into our being, it starts with a chesed. It comes like a river of love, and then it pours into this other diamond in us, which is the Gevurah. And if you imagine a diamond and the light is hitting the diamond, it spreads out into colors, different colors in all directions. And each of these colors has an aspect. And the Gevurah is all about strength. And what kind of strength are we talking about? We're talking about discernment, the ability to have like a yearning or a desire for something, but deep inside we know that if I go there, it will be harmful to me or this other person. So I stop, I observe, I wait until I'm able to make this choice out of neutrality and not just an impulse or a desire or a lust. It's like having this innate mother guiding her child to do the right thing. And I always have this picture of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Eve knew that eating from the apple would bring her and Adam into the illusion of this physical realm. But at the same time, there was this knowing coming from within her that making this choice would strengthen her in her ability to choose right from wrong. And sometimes we need to practice this over and over and over again until we are finally able to make that right choice, even though it's difficult. A very physical relationship example I have here is myself and my struggles to say no to someone if there's an attraction there, even though I know that he is not ready for a commitment or is not ready or willing to go deep with me, which is what I really want. I want deep unions, vulnerability, openness, and freedom within a relationship. And if I meet someone, I can, you can sense this quite quickly, if this is someone who really wants to commit to you or not. And yet I can stay there for a very long time, not being able to put up a boundary and say, this is my needs. I need this and this and this and this, and if you can't meet my needs, which is not, abnormal needs, which are very human needs, I'm afraid I will have to end this connection here and now, and even though it hurts. That would be a very right decision to make sometimes. But since I've had this lack of boundaries, which comes from my childhood trauma and especially my father wound, it's hard for me to put up these boundaries and make the right decision for myself, and also to express my needs. So Gevurah is all about boundaries which you set there and give, not only for yourself and to, this is not a coping mechanism to protect yourself. This is you seeing the situation as it is and then acting according to that. So that's an example of the physical body or physical reality and how we can see the Gevurah in that. If we look at the society and the human interactions, one can see the justice system as one very embodied and physical example of the Gevurah in action. We have rules which are there to help us, to guide us. So when someone do something which according to the law is illegal, there will be a reaction to that. If this is on its shadow side, it turns into rigidity. It turns into overprotection, putting up so strong boundaries that no one is able to come near. So we need to be very aware and conscious in this Gevurah energy and where our boundaries are coming from, or lack of boundaries, where they are coming from. Maybe there is some childhood trauma or wounds we haven't really healed yet. And then we can go to the mental body, or the mental aspect of us, who we are, and look at the Gevurah from there. So the Gevurah is like the highway. It has like some sort of direction and boundaries, so you don't drive the car in all directions everywhere. You are going in the direction where the road is heading. And you are the master of creating those highways. So you can actually sit down, observe your thoughts, and guide them into the right direction. If your head and mind is full of fear and anxiety or anger, or you have many wounds there from your childhood or later experiences, you have created a mind which very easily go in one direction, but it might be that that direction is not the direction that supports you the most. And changing this can be very challenging and take a lot of time. But you will feel it when you change it, because suddenly one day, because you worked on this, you make the right decision to think differently. And then suddenly your whole perspective changes. In the tarot cards, the 5 of Cups, there's a man standing and he's looking at 3 cups that has been spilled, and behind him there are 2 cups which are full and standing upright, and he's having this heavy dark black coat on him, and he's grieving the 3 cups, and he's standing and facing those cups, and in the background there's a river and a bridge, and on the other side there's a town, there's home in a way. There are always a higher perspective, and I remember when I saw this tarot card the first time, I had such an embodied experience of turning myself on that bridge. I was standing and I was looking at the water that I've lost. It's gone. It's in the past. And then I turned on the bridge and I was looking at the water coming towards me. You're on the same bridge, you're in the same mind, but you can look at what you don't have and experience all the lack in your life, or you can turn on the bridge and look at everything you have, all the strengths you have in you. If you are fearful and full of anxiety, you can look at everything in the world you can be afraid of, and that becomes your reality. Or you can turn on that bridge and you can look at everything you have in your life that is stable. You probably have a friend or two who gives you this feeling of security and love and support and stability. Or maybe you have a job which is there and it brings you the income you need to feel safe. Or maybe you have a lot of obstacles and challenges in your life, and you can turn yourself on that bridge and look at how much you're growing because of it, how much you learn because of it. And the highest perspective of all is love. Love conquers everything. And there's always an opportunity to look at things from the eyes of God and love and peace and harmony, to distance ourselves, because we get so trapped in the mental ideas about things, how it should be, how it shouldn't be, our ideas about all these kinds of rules we have, which are being, planted into our minds through the society, through the school systems, through our parents and friends and so on. So our brain is shaped and formed like a piece of clay since we are in the womb of our mother. But when you realize that you are actually that master of the mind, magical can start happen. You can suddenly see things from a higher perspective, like the eagle flying over, and looking at everything from above. And when you practice, when you find like a spiritual practice that supports this change within the mind and the perspective, that's when you can start to see real changes within your life. Your relationships change, your emotions change, your circumstances change. Suddenly you find yourself moving or changing your work or partner or whatever. because you have changed and suddenly you attract different people into your life. And one way that this change can happen is through a spiritual practice, or going to therapy, or do really deep contemplation. And then we are over in the spiritual aspect of our being and our spiritual practices. Because if you are listening, you probably have some experience with meditation, or maybe yoga, physical asana practice, or pranayama, or writing, or dancing, or whatever your spiritual practice is. Today I'm at day 911 in writing. Every morning I've been writing for 911 days. And when this practice came to me, now it's, then 2.5 years ago, about that, I remember I was sitting in my garden, and suddenly I had such a clarity that I'm here to create a paradise on earth, within myself and on the outside, that I wanted to make that intention to align with all my actions. So I started to write day 1, creating paradise on earth, how to align my actions, words, thoughts with that intention. And very quickly things started to shift for me. I suddenly saw that when I was gardening, what I was actually doing was to create a paradise in my nearest environment, and for my kids and neighbors to have, a beautiful garden to look at and eat from. And when I was raising my children, I suddenly saw that, oh my God, this is so aligned with my intention. I'm trying to, shape them and make them strong and secure within themselves, and make them feel so loved no matter what. And I'm trying to help them to be able to embrace their own emotions and hold themselves, and giving them tools so they don't get too dependent on other people, to be able to allow emotions to come and then be released again. So I'm like shaping my children in the way I hope and believe that will be helpful for them when they are being conscious enough to start to create their own family, and when they're starting to create more into the physical world and manifest their gifts. They are already a gift as they are, of course. But anyways, what I'm trying to say here, it became so clear to me that I can align my action with this one pure intention. And I managed to find a spiritual practice that made me light up every morning. It didn't feel hard. It felt good. And it was the right decision for me, because this way I connect with myself, with my angels and spirit guides every day. I start every day by writing good morning, their soul and angels and God. And then I sit and I start just writing. Some days I have a lot to, just write out. And other days I ask, is there any guidance for me today? And I'm so surprised sometimes what comes through when I'm writing. It's like the higher self, the higher mind starts to give me wisdom. And in the beginning also poems were starting to come through me, which I've never been writing before, but suddenly I saw myself writing beautiful poems. Just by sitting and listening and allowing words to come through me. So for me, this spiritual practice works very well. And it makes me deeply reflect about myself. And then I have an afternoon meditation. Around 2 or 3 o'clock, I meditate for an hour. Either I lay down or I sit. Sometimes for years I've been feeling that it's very supportive to my body to lay down and do the meditation laying down, because then I can relax, and at the same time I feel that this healing is happening while I'm resting, because I'm still recovering from cancer treatment. And I feel tired in the afternoon if I don't have this rest. But I'm conscious and I'm meditating. And sometimes I do guided meditation. For years I was doing yoga nidra, which I highly recommend if you are suffering from PTSD or some anxiety or trauma that you're trying to heal from, or you just feel like there's an unbalance in your nervous system, that you're stressed out all the time and you can't regulate. Yoga nidra is an excellent kind of meditation that will definitely help you to relax and release and bring your nervous system into balance. And it also, depending on which kind of yoga nidra you do, but some of them has this beautiful polarity practice where you in one moment feel the heat and then the next moment feel the cold, fear and security, anger and love. You kind of change between the polarities, so you practice to be in one and then bring yourself out of it and going into the other polarity and then coming into neutrality. So there are so many beautiful spiritual practices we can do, but I think having a teacher, or at least finding a practice that brings you this feeling of joy and ease and support and connection, is so important. And since we are at day 8, and this whole week we will be in the Gevurah, so this is kind of I'm trying to help you to see if there is some discipline that might be needed into your spiritual practices. But how you can use the Chesed, because today we are in the gate between Gevurah and Chesed again, but last week we were in Chesed and looking at how the Gevurah was working within the Chesed. Now we have changed the direction. We are in the Gevurah Sephirot, this strength and the ability to make good choices for ourselves, go into the right direction, understanding what's good for us and what's not so good for us, and actually making the choice which will be the best for us in the long term. But it's so important when we go into a spiritual practice, if we want to stay in that and find like a healthy discipline, which is not too rigid and which is not coming from this feeling that we need to fix ourselves, or we need to, I don't feel like I'm good enough. So now my teacher is telling me that I need to have a spiritual practice every day. So now I need to, get up 6 a.m. and do Ashtanga yoga. And, I have to work hard on myself now. It's probably not going to work very well in the long term. For some people in the beginning, this is where it starts. But without the love, this unconditional love as the fundament in your spiritual practice, you will probably fall into a trap where you will be very judgmental towards yourself. Because if this is very new to you and you never actually been sitting in silence and never observing yourself, if the love and allowance is not there, the judgments comes in very quickly. Which is probably a phase many of us have to go through. I remember in the beginning when I was starting to meditate, I found it so hard and difficult because I realized that my mind was living its own life and I thought that I had to kind of stop thinking. And just be silent. I had these expectations that, if we meditate, we will find this peace and harmony and we can just sit like that forever. Life is not like that. So allowance, allowance, allowance. Whatever comes up in you, allow it to rise. Embrace it like this divine mother who can hold everything, all aspects of you. She doesn't reject anything. She embraces everything. She loves every single part of you. That's the attitude we need to bring with us when we create a spiritual practice for ourselves. But you kind of have to also have the right intention. Why are you doing this? Why are you here listening? What brought you here? What is your deepest longing and desire? Why do you even bother? It's probably because there is this soul intention. Your soul is kind of, knocking. First, the soul has this tendency to knock very quietly on the door. Like, hey, come on. There's something I want you to see. There's actually another reality you can experience here. Do you want to see that? Do you want to have that? And it knocks very, very quietly. And then, if you don't listen, it knocks a little louder and then a little louder. Until sometimes life brings you really big catastrophes or, this big event like a divorce or an accident or sickness or whatever. And then suddenly things starts to change. At least that was how it happened for me. Even though I had my spiritual practice before I had cancer, this sickness changed everything for me. And the awakening experience I had when I realized that God is truly within. And my potential is to be in alignment and have this experience of being that light here on earth and sharing it with the world. That's an actually possibility. And feeling safe all the time. Feeling in love with life itself all the time. Feeling this harmony with myself and people around me. Not being afraid of dying, not being afraid of failing, not being afraid of being enough or doing the wrong things. Because nothing can actually be wrong. It's just lessons and consequences. And we can learn from them and learn how to make different choices that serves the higher good for all beings. So I talked very in depth about 3 aspects: the physical, the mental, and the spiritual, and then we have the emotional aspect of us, the water element within. And it's very connected with the mental, our emotions, they kind of have a tendency to follow the thoughts. But of course, emotions and things like that can be stuck in the body. And we need to work with the physical to release the emotional sometimes. So everything is connected. But we can immediately have an emotional experience, an embodied experience of this Athena goddess within, that strength within. In the connection with the Chesed, with the unconditional love. So maybe if you want to, you can stand up and just stand with your feet a little apart and make your arms strong, like you were Athena and you were holding this weight, knowing exactly what's good for you and what's not good for you, and what's good for all people and the earth, and what's bad, what actually is hurtful. And you are so strong within yourself and your own vessel and your emotions that you're able to go in the right direction that serves you the most. So in this moment, you can have the emotional experience of Gevurah, of strength and boundaries. Imagine you're just, we all have people in our lives, or at least most of us have, where we feel like there should be a boundary here. Just imagine you're so strong in saying, hey, you know what? Your behavior is hurting me. Can we talk about this? And if not, if you're not willing to have a deeper look at how we can work with this, I'm not sure I want to, be so close to you. I'm going to distance myself a little bit because your behavior is actually hurtful. So this is like bravery, to face the reality as it is and to go into it with strength and security. And this Athena figure, she's so, I don't know, there's so much beauty in it as well. And she has such a warrior spirit. She's just here to, guide people in the right direction. It's like this, no, yes, come here, follow me. And I will, make sure that you will thrive and be strong and healthy within yourself. She has this quality in her. Able to choose the right path for her. To choose the light. Okay, I think I've talked enough now. So maybe if you want a practice or some invitations to what you can do today to really feel into this Gevurah together with the Chesed, Sephirot. See where you can make some good choices for yourself, which comes from love and highest good. And look at your spiritual practices. Do you have any? And if you don't, are there any, can you make like a search and see if you can find one? Maybe it's just getting up in the morning and do 3 sun salutations for 10 days. Start with 10 days and see what happens. When I started to write in the morning, I had no idea I would do that for 911 days. But here I am. Because I feel so good when I'm doing that. So make like a list and try out some different, in the beginning it's okay to try out this and that and see if it feels good to you or not. And if not, ask yourself, why isn't this feeling good? Is it because I'm judging myself? Or is it just not fitting, my nature? And look into your relationships. Are there any relationships where I'm not actually putting up my boundaries and, showing my strength? Am I adapting in a very unhealthy way or avoiding facing some problems? Am I afraid of conflict, so I avoid instead of speaking my truth? Or is there something on work, in your work environment that you need to make, some adjustments and make some good decisions for yourself? Maybe you need to change how you work. Maybe you need to start making lists and having some more structure within your working daily life. And observe your mind, the direction of your thoughts. Turn on that bridge and see if there's a higher perspective than what you are thinking. You can feel in the body when you're having thoughts which are kind of low vibrational or fearful or angry or resentful. You can feel it. Something is not actually, vibrating in love here. Is there a possibility to turn on that bridge? Not to spiritually bypassing. There's so many people out there, talking about you just have to think positive and then your reality will change. In a way, they are right. But if you haven't done your emotional work and, changed the mind from the root and worked with the root cause of all your habitual thinking, it will not lead you very far, I'm afraid. Actually, there will only be inner children who will feel they are being repressed and rejected. So everything is connected here. This is the medicine wheel, and we need to work with all the elements within ourselves. The fire element, the spirit, the water, the emotions, the air, the thoughts, and the earth. The physical aspect of our being, our body and heart. Yes. Okay, I will conclude this day then, or this channeling of God's aspects as I receive them and understand them, the tree of life and how you can work with it. So thank you for listening, and may you have a beautiful day. I feel inspired to create like a little talk about the 4 elements and the 4 aspects of our being, and how you can also look at this in the picture of a trauma respond and attachment styles and things like that, so you can have like a full perspective on it and how to work with it. You know, all the different ancient spiritual practices that teach us about life, they talk about the elements and the importance of making a balance. So I think I will do that. Not today maybe, but one of the coming days. So if you want to listen to that, I will put that in this YouTube channel. Okay, I send you so much love and have a beautiful day.